Right, let's get on with that gearbox. Oh, oh, hello. Oh, Jenkins, a duck. Yeah, how did you turn a duck into a soul singer? Put him next to the fire and he's Bill Withers. Ha ha. No, Jenkins, no harm comes to the duck. Yeah, it's Bill Withers. Hello, welcome to Tweed's Garage, where in this video we're working on the gearbox on the Scott. Lucky I've got my memory duck. Yeah, so we continue tearing down the gearbox, taking it apart, having a little look, see what else is damaged. We continue to repair, or have a go at repairing that selector arm that was we found that damage on. There's that to do. There's a description of how the gearbox works, well, my theory anyway. So there's that. Oh, onion progress. Yeah, got into trouble for that, not putting that on last time. So yeah, a bit more progress on the onions. Yeah, I think that'll do you. It's quite a long one, so we better get going. We'll go this way. No, this way. So, been working on the thrust bearing of the clutch, and as you can see, all the ball bearings are out. Yeah, most of them fell out. But as you can see, they're meant to be sort of retained. There's a little bit of peening on the outside of the holes on both sides. So they should sort of stay in there, you know, whilst you're assembling and disassembling. But I think they're so worn they fell out. But the holes seem okay because I've put some new ones in. And they stay in there pretty much. I think what I'll do is, once I've got them all in, I'll make a little tool up and just peen them back over a little bit from the side that I've squashed them in from. So 3/16 ball bearings, insertion, viewing, about to commence. Okay, as we got the gearbox in pieces, I thought I'd attempt to describe how it functioned. Yeah, if it was a sort of pre-1930s Scott, it'd only have 2 speeds, so it'd be really easy to describe. So basically, we've got our engine connects to the clutch by what they call the primary chain, which goes on here. So when your clutch is engaged, which means when it's all pressed together, this sprocket drives this splined back plate or a drive plate on the back of the clutch. So those splines go onto here on what they call the input shaft. Okay, so the input shaft has this gear on it and it rotates around the output shafts. Yeah, so they're sort of separate at the moment. Okay, so then in the gearbox you have 6 gears. So you've got your input and output shaft, you've got top gear, first gear, second gear, and then this is what's called your idler gears. So it transmits power. So remember, when the clutch is engaged but the bike is in neutral, this will be spinning and it will be turning this shaft, which will be turning this gear and this gear, but it won't be turning. So that'll all be turning, those will be turning, but the output shaft won't be turning. See, because those gears, I can hold those gears, I can hold all three and turn the output shaft. Okay, that's the easy bit. So then, when you engage first gear, the selector drops down like that and engages with your first gear. So remember, power's being transmitted from this gear via the idler gears to this gear. So your power's coming in, going along, going into here, and this selector is keyed onto the output shaft. So now when you turn first gear, difficult to hold it all, this will still move, but it won't, because it's connected via this and this. So this is turning, but it's not turning the same speed as this shaft, transmitting power through here to your first gear, which is transmitting power to your selector, which is then transmitting power to your output shaft, like that. And then, so you imagine there, it'll turn like that and transmit power out through the output shaft. But because of these gears, they'll be turning at different speeds. So this will be turning slower than this gear because this will be running at engine speed. Okay, so that's first gear. And then if you move it to there, it's in neutral. So again, they all spin. This one spins on here, on the output shaft. So no drive is transmitted. Remember, these are always running all the time. So then you move your selector to here, and these dogs connect, if you can see, with those dogs there, and they connect with your second gear, with this gear. See, so first gear now spins freely, second gear is now attached to the selector, which is attached to the output shaft. So your input shaft is turning this idler shaft, turning this gear, which will turn, you know, your whole assembly and your output shaft, transmit power to your chain. And then when you engage top gear, selector moves all the way across and engages with your third gear, and literally your power is going from the input shaft into the selector. There's no, these are turning, but because these are freewheeling, it's not doing anything. So you've got direct drive from the engine going through this this gear, connected to this selector, connected to the output shaft, and then that will turn like that, giving you top gear. That's basically it. Hope that explains it a bit. So first, second, third gear, neutral position there, top position there, and second there, first there. There you go. Scott 3-speed gearbox explained. And the next thing to do is try and get this idler shaft bearing out. It seems a little bit rough, a little bit noisy. No play on it, but normally if you sort of clean the bearing out and put a bit of WD-40 in there, you know, it should sort of quieten down and run quite smoothly, but it's still sounding a bit rough. So we need to try and get this out. So I think first we'll try heating the case, and as it's in a blind hole, we'll have to use the bearing extractor, just a glorified slide hammer. So we'll give that a go. Yeah, well that didn't work, and I didn't want to push it too hard. I didn't want to damage the case. So we'll try something I saw a YouTuber do, I think a sort of Polish chap. for removing blind bearings by driving in bits of wet tissue. So we'll give that a go. Yeah, just sort of damp it slightly and pop it in the middle of the bearing, and then with a rod that sort of fits the inner race quite snugly, just keep beating it in, and then hopefully it'll spread under the bearing and push the bearing out. Yeah, well, we gave it a go, but it's sort of just gone beyond 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday night, work night, so it's time to stop doing this. And as I've got a load of wet compounded tissue paper around the bearing and behind the bearing, I'll pop it in the freezer overnight, see if the formation of ice might sort of move it out a little bit. So next morning, did it work? I don't think it did. Kept looking at it. I was hoping, is it physics or chemistry? What's ice forcing stuff out? Must be physics. Yeah, no, it's just squashed up the middle. Now I've got to clean that out. But yeah, I'll try and clean that out, fish that out, put the bearing extractor in there again and warm the case again and give it another go. Hopefully something's shifted a little bit, and we'll see if we can get this bearing out. It's been quite tenacious, but as you can see, it's a blind hole, you can't get on the back of it, you know, and you've got a quite thin aluminium casing, so you don't want to, you know, you don't want to bash it too hard to try and get it out. Yeah, so let's sort of just crack on. Slowly, catchy monkey. Okay, so we tried wet tissue, and yeah, that didn't work. Had another look, and I think they use bread. I haven't got any bread. Well, I have got fresh bread Mrs. TWEED'S made, but we're not going to use that for ramming into a bearing hole. Another one I saw was candle wax, so we'll try that. Give it a go. If nothing else, it'll make a mess. It's like making mud pies, isn't it? But it's worth a shot, because not everybody's got an internal bearing extractor. Put some of that in there. Like that, down there. It's really awkward to get to as well. It's quite, only just get your hand in there. Okay. And it was now daytime, so we can tap away to our heart's content. So, you're out of the way. Oh, kinda. Yeah, all this wax. I don't know, it just reminded me of that joke. You know the joke. Give that a good wacky doodle. Let's move you over there so I don't keep whacking you in the chops. Try with the piece of wood there is because there's a difference in height between the two, and I don't want to knock that race out if I can help it. We're just beating on the back of the casting there. All the force is hopefully going through there, but I think it moved, you know. Yeah, what was that joke I was thinking of? Oh yeah, my dog used to drink varnish. It killed him, but he had a lovely finish. It's bloody working, you know. You can hear the tone change. Pound some more wax in there. Who her missus. Right. Can you hear the tone changing? It's coming up. She's coming up. It's bloody pumping it out now. Look at that. Hydraulics, physics. Should have paid more attention. Better not use all Jenkins candles. Won't be able to do his own work. So yeah, you just need a shaft that's a nice, you know, reasonable fit. Luckily this just fit in perfectly. Can't remember the size of the bearing, 1/2 inch, something like that. But you can always turn a bit of rod down to fit. But I've seen people just, you know, end of an Allen bolt or something doing it. Yeah, it's coming out lovely. But I'll tell you what, it was, I could tell by the with the bearing extractor, even with the case heated, you could tell it was tight in there. If you can support the back of the case nice and flat, probably less chance of damaging the housing doing it this way than it is thrashing away with a slide hammer, trying to support the housing. I was just going to think I'm going to have trouble getting the wax out the hole, but all I've got to do is heat the cases up. And it'll just run out. A little bit more. There we go. Bloody look at that. Look at that. No damage done. Well, apart from I've got a lot of candle wax in there to poke out. There you go. Candle wax getting out an internal bearing. And that was a lot less effort than trying to sort of get it out with a puller, because I was really having to crash that around and it wasn't even moving. So before we assemble the gearbox, just do some work on the casings. We'll just run a flat stone over the outer case just to knock off some of the high spots that it's picked up over the years and give it a better chance of sealing. And we'll just remove the studs as well, so we can clean this face up on the gearbox casting by double nutting them. There we go. Slacken off a bit. Just a bit of heat to help us along. There's one. So double nutting them, you just find 2 nuts the same size. Come up a bit, otherwise I won't get my spanner underneath. Should put the bigger one underneath, really, make life easier. And then you tighten the top one down, clamp the 2 together, and just undo the bottom one. And out it comes. Just release the bottom one whilst we've still got it on there. Makes life a bit, here, no, still quite tight. Dip it up again. Finger tight there. That one, and the last one, bigger nut underneath. It's the same size thread, it's just the vagaries of English nuts and bolts. This one's probably Whitworth size head and the other one's probably BSF. There you go, and you always undo the lower nut so it's pushing against the nut up above it. I need to squeak it up a bit more, it's a bit tight. There we go. Out she comes, no dramas. Now we can just stone that face up as well and be ready to be reassembled. We've also popped a little layer of Tiger Seal around the gearbox mounting studs and threaded collars inside the gearbox. Yeah, because I know this will leak oil, but yeah, you don't want it coming down the bottom. And when I was cleaning it out with brake cleaner was coming out of here, so I knew these weren't very oil tight. So that's fairly all tight, little blob down there, just stop the oil running out of this stud here, and then all we've got is oil running out around here, around the shaft and around the intermediate shaft here. But more on that later, I think it's by design. Right, next job is to put this bearing back in this housing down there. So I'm going to warm the case and then drop it in, but to make sure I get it in nice and square, because it's quite deep down there, I've taken apart my crank drawing tool to use as a man drill to push down on the bearing. Use the old bearing as a spacer on top. I have cleaned all the candle wax out of it to help push the new bearing in, and then we'll use this underneath to support the housing because it has this pip on it. So yeah, it will sit nice and straight on there, and this has got Mowog stamped on it, so it's an old Morris Austin tool, I think for pushing suspension bushes in or something. Yeah, anyway, somebody will know. So yeah, we're going to use that as our pedal stool, sit the casting on top, this in there, well, bearing, old bearing, this, press on the top and just push it in. I'm going to get you set up next door. Right, one warmed casting. Let's drop it down in there. Actually, that's pretty much sort of gone in there, look, you see. I don't think we've got a problem with the old bearing going in the top, because I think it sits slightly proud. Right, let's give that a go. Yeah. Is that in? That went down quick. That was painless. That's in there. One bearing, ready to go. I've got to change this bearing. Knock the tab washer down. Retreat it gently. Get away with using it again. Oh yeah, easy peas. Easy peas. So I think we can put that back on when it's in the gearbox. Just hold the output shaft. Right, that's that. Oh, somebody's been in here before. I've had one use out of it already. Okay. Oh, there we go. That comes off. There's a bush there. Take that bush out. Like that. Okay, so that's the bearing in. And I think I could sort of pop the shaft back in, but I don't want to at the moment. I've got to put it in though, because I need to check a clearance between this gear, big gear down the bottom, and that bronze bush, because I don't know if you can see at some time let's get a pointy stick. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but there's a witness mark just there where the gear's been running on the edge of the bush, and just on that, just caught the top of that screw. So I need to get that shaft in there and check the clearances. I mean, I've measured my depth and everything. I'll double measure it because I know the thickness of this bearing, and I can measure the height between there, and then the shoulder on the back of the shaft where it rests on the bearing, this shoulder here, and just make sure I've got enough clearance on there. You know, I could push it in, but then I've got to try and take it out again, you know, and every time you do that you're putting strain on the new bearing, so the less I can do before I pop it all back together the better, really. But yeah, let's keep going. So the next job is to remove the outer bearing that's attached to second gear, and I attempt to do that by getting a socket that was just undersize the size of the internal diameter of the bearing, and then pop that in the vise like so, because the trouble is the gap between the gear and the bearing is very thin. You can't get a lever in behind there, and also I don't want to lever it because that's the easiest way to break gear teeth off. So what I've been trying to do is tap alternate sides with a pin punch like so. But it doesn't appear to be shifting. You haven't got a lot of surface to get onto. So plan is, found a piece of 1/2 inch angle, cut 4 pieces off, pop them in the mill and milled them off equal length both ends. Well, of course it's both ends. Yeah, and 90 degrees, so they're all nice and flat and true. And then the plan is, when they come apart, they need deburring, is to weld 4 of them equidistant, a bit like when I made the flywheel holder for the Riley. So basically the idea is, they'll probably all fall on the floor, so yeah, 4 of these around the outside edge like that, and then the other 2 there. I'm not going to run out of fingers, so we're just fitting inside the gear teeth and parallel so that they rest on the edge of the bearing. You just see it sitting there all the way around. Plan is to have 4 of them to give me the best chance, like that, and then weld these. It's going to be a bit of a fiddle. Weld these onto a plate like so, and then I can put the plate in the press above this with the socket underneath, and hopefully press it off on four corners. So that's the plan. So we're making a tool. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4. See if this plate is big enough. Careful how we put these, could get in trouble. Right. Oh yeah, I think we need to go to the corners to maximise my plate. So sort of 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and then 1 there. Move them around a bit. 1 there, 1 there. Oh! Bugger me. Look at that. Don't need to make a tool now. Must have just hit it in the right spot. Result! So, for a bit of a breather, we'll go and have a visit down to Tweed's onion patch. So there you go, they're coming on very nicely. Yeah, we've got second set of leaves coming up. They're getting a little bit bigger, so that means they've put their rooties down. We've had to replant a couple because the pesky pigeons go and sort of pull them up, but all looking good. Must have frightened it with the promise of physical violence on the hydraulic press. Fear, that's what you need to get the bearings off. Let me put the new one on there. So, there we go. Job's a good one. That bag fit over there. Just keep the dust out. Yep, perfect. So we just got to repair this now, and then the gearbox can go back together. I'm going to put you in the hydraulic press, and you're going to give in. There you go. It might fix itself now. So first thing I done was found a bit of bar that I had that was the same size as the selector shaft, and drilled the same size hole in the end just to sort of make it the same sort of physical size, and then milled these out roughly so it all looked very similar, and then ground out a section each side to sort of mimic what I was going to do with the cracks on these, and then try MIG welding first, see how that went. I prefer MIG weld. It's sort of, you know, instant heat, instant weld. You're not sort of heating the whole part up before it starts to melt like you are with TIG welding, because it's similar to sort of gas welding. You know, MIG is instant. You still get heat, but I don't think you get as much generated heat in the part. You know, if you sort of do small welds, take it easy, you can keep the heat down. So yeah, seems to go all right. I don't know if you can see. Can you see in here? Yeah, I cut right through on there, so the sort of penetration, it comes down, it's melted down into the inside, so that's good. You know, then we can just clean up the hole afterwards. So what we're planning on doing, and the main worry was whether this would just disappear as you were welding it, you know, or just melt into a blob, but no, it seems to hold good. So this crack runs from here to about there and runs inside as well. I don't know if you can see, runs inside as well. Wave it around. So the plan on this, I don't think this is higher, I think this is the same level. So what I'll probably do is put a tack weld on the end here down towards the bottom underneath, just to bridge it, and then grind that out sort of deep as I can down to sort of that sort of repair there, and then weld that one in. On this side it's a bit more tricky because we've got two cracks joining running there, and this end, I don't know if you saw the last video, this was quite tight to pull out. It's because this end is splayed out a little bit and was causing restrictions pulling it out through the bush. So the plan with this one is, first, especially on this side, is put a tack weld down here, down on this crack, down on the bottom, and then let it cool down, and then hopefully with shrinkage that will drag this back down into position. And yeah, I may do one on the other side there as well, and then that just ties these two pieces in. And then maybe just before I grind, just maybe just stick a little weld on the top here just to tie this piece in, then grind this one out, as this is the smaller one, weld that up, and then once it's, you know, all settled back down again, then grind that one out and weld that back in. So that is the plan. Let's see how it goes. But what I'll also do, I'll warm this up before welding it, and then keep it under wraps whilst it's cooling back down, to try and sort of minimalise any sort of thermal shock on here, hopefully sort of stopping these from cracking on the welds sort of straight after. So yeah, let's give it a go. and have a cup of tea. So we've been working on the arm, it's coming along nicely. Popped it on the milling machine, ran a drill down through it, same size as the hole, to clean the welds up that have gone on the inside of the operating arm. Cleaned it up reasonably nicely, put a bit of emery down there later and sort of finish it off. And then for the welds, been using just files by hand, and then just filing the welds down by hand and checking in the hole in the gearbox here just by bluing it, which is this stuff, engineer's blue. If you don't know, it's sort of like a very blue liquid like this, like a sort of blue grease, very strong colour, just keeps going everywhere. Yeah, they used to do things to apprentices with engineer's blue as an initiation. Yeah, looks like you'd got very cold. Yeah, so you just pop that in there and rub it around, and then there's pretty much high spots all the way around, so we know we've got good contact all the way around. But when I first put it in, you're only getting blue here and here on the high spots. So yeah, just gradually file those down, and eventually you'll get there. Eventually it will sort of drop right in, so fits quite nicely, moves quite nicely. What we did discover when we were cleaning it up, there's another crack we missed there, look. So there was 2 cracks on both sides, and it runs in across the middle there. So what I'll do again is preheat this, warm it up again, grind that out, weld that up, go through the process all again of cleaning it up, and eventually when I get it all fitting nicely, then we'll finish up these 2 tangs out the end. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll use the fork as well, and like I was doing with the hole there, just keep trial fitting it, and then filing away and fitting and filing away and fitting it till it's a nice snug fit. And we'll stick it on the shaft as well, so it'll keep it all nice and square. So yeah, it's coming along. It's retained its hardness sort of up this end, not so hard but still pretty hard along here, and these tangs are still quite hard, they haven't gone soft, so I think it'll be all right. I think it'll do the job. So work is progressing on this. I managed to get it back into the shape it should be. So I've been trying to get a nice fit where it goes into the selector fork, which is going okay. Same thing as before, putting engineer's blue in there and then seeing where it leaves witness marks on there to file away. We're getting pretty close. But I'm trying it actually mounted into the gearbox. We've got a bit of tightness on this shaft here. Where it goes through, it's not smooth as I like it, so we're trying to clean it up. We're using one of those horrible Chinese reamers. So I've had these Chinese reamers quite a few years. I'm hoping the quality has improved a bit, because these are, yeah, they're quite nasty. But yeah, keep adjusting them slightly, running them through the hole. We should get a reasonable finish, but it's not ideal. I've run a 3/8 reamer through there, but it's not giving enough clearance. So I'll pop that in there like that. We've gone through once, bit of cutting fluid, just let it run down. I have tweaked it a little bit since the last time I run it through. Bit tight there. Yeah, because they're not very parallel, the blades. It gets tighter towards the top end of the reamer. Yeah, we're taking a little bit off there. There's only about 2 blades cut in though. Quality. So we need a bit of clearance on here, because I don't think, yeah, it's getting there, it's getting better. The bushings, this one and this one, there's a bit of a misalignment, so when you put the shaft through, That way it doesn't look it, but when you put the selector arm through this way, it gets a bit tight. You really want it so it's, you know, without the selector fork in down here, just trying it for movability. Yeah, it's a little bit tight, so I want to try and ease that up a bit. Never sure how you set these things to size, well, especially these ones because they're rubbish. So what I'm doing is you basically set it so it will sort of go through the hole smoothly, and then when you want to make it bigger, you slacken this one off and tighten this one up. What it does, it moves these blades. They're angled on the bottom and there's an angled channel. You move these blades and they ride up the channel and start moving out, so it makes them bigger. And then you should really drop a reamer out the bottom of the hole and then feed it back in if you can, but if you're doing a blind hole you can't. There you go, we're sort of getting there. You see what I mean? There's a tight spot there and there, and you have to sort of fiddle this shaft around to get the best position. You move it there so it's all tightened up. So I think I'll run the reamer through just a couple more times just to give us a bit more leeway in the, you know, allow this sort of a little bit more movement. So we found a point of friction here, a bit of galling on the case caused by a bit of flashing on the selector fork when it's done up tight. It's been rubbing against the casing, so I'm wondering whether the nut's been slackened off to ease up the movement on the selector fork. Let me drop it out and show you. There. I'll just get the old finger sander on that and clean that casting up a bit, and that should cure that problem. There you go, a few seconds with the finger sander and we've knocked that flashing off of the casting. So there was a high spot round here, so just knock that off with a file and then put a chamfered edge on the inside of the bush just to allow for the small radius on the inside of the selector arm. We'll try it again. It's getting better. So one final adjustment on the gearbox housing, well on this bush actually. I don't think this face is very square. Seems to be worn on this, higher on this edge than it is on this back edge. So popped it in the milling machine on a 90-degree angle plate, bolted it down, and then with my test rod, which is the same diameter as the selector shaft, lined that up on the milling machine between the two bushes like that. So I think that's good where it is, and then go over the top of this bush just to face it off, you know, not take a load off, just get it square with the bore of the bush. That's cleaned up quite nicely. Got good surface contact all the way around, just this sort of edge here, but this edge has been sort of worn downwards. Something's been rattling around in there and worn that edge unevenly. We've taken a few thou off to get that clean. Don't want to go any further, because if you try and chase this edge here, you'll be taking a fair bit of that, the face of that bush off, but I think that'll do. And yeah, just a note on the clamping. So we've got an angle plate here, I've got a bolt or a stud that goes all the way through, bolted on this side, and then a clamp to spread the load along this output shaft hole. But there's a bearing in there that sits slightly proud, as you can see. So what we've done is just a couple of pieces of sheet aluminium cut and drop down the side of each side of the clamp, so that the clamp is pushing on the housing and not on the bushing, because the trouble is, as soon as you do this up, there's a possibility that that'll push that bush back into the housing. But that worked well. Okay, let's reassemble it all. Get in there like that. There's a bit of clearance there now. And it's nice, and I can see daylight all even through that gap, which I couldn't see before. So that's a good job, worth doing, even if it didn't need doing. And then what I've discovered is you sort of tighten this up, and it does travel further. It does nip up a little bit, so I think hence that's why there's the lock nut that wasn't on this. It's just ease it off just a smidge, and that's it. Plenty. And then I found a nice little brass Dame's nut in my box of bits. It will do as a lock nut until I can turn something up. I think it looks quite nice, and a brass one on there. Yeah, we'll get old Norman the fin counter. Oh no, they didn't leave the factory in 1927 with a brass nut on the end of the gearbox. No, it was just a standard mild steel one. Yes, anyway, so that moves nicely. The selector fork is attached to the arm, done up nice and tight. There's no slack there at all, so it's pulled in nicely. So there's no chance of it rattling those teeth and shearing them off again.
Oh, Reg, me teeth!
I'm pretty confident that'll be okay. And the last job we need to sort out before we put it back together is this ball and spring that was way too strong. This is the spring here, but it's stuck out about that much out of the end of this, and this you can only just see daylight behind it when it's swinging over this plate. So I had about that much sticking out, and look, I can hardly compress it myself, and you can see where it's been sort of compressing so hard it sort of rubbed itself away down the bottom end where it's been in the housing. So what I'm going to do is nip a bit off at a time. I know it's, you know, preferable to have a flat surface, but it'll be going in this hole and sitting down the bottom. So, you know, we just grind a few spirals off at a time and then keep trying it and see how we go. But I think that's enough work for one day. So we're going to have a cuppa, and I suspect you want one too. So there you go, bit of progress on the onions. Oh, and the gearbox. Gearbox is coming along, yeah, but you'll have to tune in next time because it's getting on a bit. Yeah, to see how we're getting on a little bit more. Yeah, all right. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give us a little like and hit subscribe and all that. And we'll see you next time. All right, cheerio. What's that, Jenkins? No, there was no harm to the duck. No, he was fine. Hello! It's a bit rattly. It's got dirt in him. Stop rattling. Hello! Welcome to TWEED'S Garage, where in this video we're doing a little bit work. How'd you turn a duck into a soul singer? Don't know. Yeah, put him near the fire and he'd... Comedy, timing. I'll give you a little description of how a gearbox works.
Let